You're listening to ASOTU CON Sessions by Space Auto, recorded live at ASOTU CON 2025. Well, we're live on the ASOTU CON podcast stage, powered by Space Auto, and in the heart of the action here at ASOTU CON 2025. I'm Paul J Daly, and I'm here today with Glenn Pasch, talking about his new book and whatever else I can pry out of him, The Road to Sold. Glenn, thanks for joining us today at the stage.
I am so happy to be here. Fantastic conference. You should be very pleased.
I'm very blessed and impressed with the way the team has executed. That's for sure.
You have
Most
a great
importantly,
team.
with the way the community has showed up. Mm-hmm. That's how you can tell, right? How do people treat one another that aren't your team? And that's a good benchmark of what the community is.
Absolutely. And I think you've created a really great environment for conversation. There's been nothing but constant dialogue, sitting at the tables. The content has been phenomenal. And what I like about that content is it sparks conversations.
Yep.
Which is, again, what we're trying to do at any conference is get people thinking, get people talking, and meeting people that they probably never would meet.
That's right. I'm just thinking now, do you remember the last time you and I sat down in person and had a podcast conversation? Do you remember the first time?
I don't know if I do.
I came to your office.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Remember that? I drove to New Jersey and I was like, who's this guy, Glenn? And you were very nice to me and you entertained me for probably too long.
No.
But it's the hospitality side of you.
It is, the hospitality side. No, I love the fact that now you're making me remember. I was like, that was a great conversation. Yeah.
That's right. So I want to talk about your new book.
Sure.
You are a relentless student of progress, is what I will say. You focus on the human element. You are very elbows like down, hands in the dirt, working, figuring things out, finding a better way, helping dealers all across the country dial things in. And that could be that's in a broad spectrum of areas as well. It's not just one area. It's typically a pretty holistic approach. So tell us about the new book. Why did you write it? And what is it talking about?
Well, I think it came out of a frustration initially because running an agency, you know that. You generate traffic, you can see it, you get engagement, you think you're doing well for the customer, and then in the case of a dealer, they say, well, I'm not selling. And usually the blame is marketing. Leads aren't good, we're not getting the right type of leads. And so my customers, my own clients for the agency, I said, well, let me go look into the CRM, because years ago we had a partner who worked with us, Mark McGurran, who taught me everything about automotive CRMs and process. And then he moved on to run his own company. So I started looking, and what I noticed is there was a breakdown in communication. And so I started diving in with my own clients, started writing about it, and it was common sense. It goes back to hospitality. How are you really treating customers? And I think it was one of our conferences at DMSC one year, and Tim Cox, our good friend from Car Now, he stood on stage and he said something that always stuck with me, that you can't sell a car without a conversation. And that was just so clear and so simple. And I said, that's it. And so what I started looking into dealerships, most stores don't have a problem once someone connects with someone. Once they start talking,
it's very true.
They get to a point of getting to an appointment.
We go around and we ask a lot of people, do these man on the street interviews. Mm-hmm. And Kyle and I asked the same question. What was your favorite part of your last car buying experience? To a person, everyone says working with the salesperson.
Of course. Well, we've gone, if you've been in the business long enough, mm-hmm. It goes sort of full cycle, where many, many years ago, the dealer held all the information. I had to go to the dealer to get the information.
Yes.
Now, all of a sudden, there's so much information, but I still think they go back to the dealer now, not because they don't have information, they can't make heads or tails of all the information. So I still need you, but I need you in a consultative approach to help me land on the right vehicle. And so The book came out of some writings, and then some of my clients said, could you just write this down because it makes sense? And so for me, data doesn't mean anything unless I can use it. And so what I started noticing was we were all asking the wrong question. People would come in and they would always ask me, the dealer would say, should I have a BDC or should the salespeople? And I said, I don't know. I've seen them all work and I've seen them all fail.
Kind of a binary question.
Exactly. But then it dawned on me. It was one of those aha moments. Sitting with an internet team, and I watched how they would interact with a customer online. But then when somebody walked on the lot and they walked up to you, they were asking 50 different questions. Right? Is this for you? Leasing, buying? What are you trading? What'd you like? Blah, 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 blah. But when they went back, and if that same person submitted a lead, they'd ask one question: when do you want to come in? When do you want to come in? They weren't trying to have a conversation. And I was like, that's what it was. It's not about BDC internet. It's about you're treating your online customer completely different than your in-person customer. But that online customer has evolved. We are so, and especially past COVID, and we don't bring that up that much, but we're in such a convenience economy now. Everybody uses Uber. Everybody uses Uber Eats, DoorDash. They don't even think about it. They get mad if Amazon doesn't drop the package in 2 hours.
Right. They order their stuff from Target or Walmart. They don't want to go in the store and pick it up, right?
Exactly.
Get it up front.
So same thing. So I would always challenge anyone who said to me, well, that customer's not serious. I said, well, wait a minute. If you were serious about your food, you'd make your own food, or you'd go to the restaurant. Why'd you use Uber Eats? They go convenience. I said, same thing here. And all of a sudden I said, start asking questions to build a conversation. Because if we know downstream, once I have a conversation, I'm good. Your real question is, how do I have more conversations? And now once I started layering in, taking all those things that you would say in person and just say, talk about this day one. Day two, go, hey, Paul, I forgot to ask you, you trading something in? And the person goes, no. I'm like, I got you. Day three, hey, we have incentives. Do you want me to look into them? And the person like, what incentives? And you're like, I got you. And once the game for the sales team or the BDC was, what do I have to do to have a conversation? Versus I got to make 100 calls, pressure lifts. I start having more conversations, or lo and behold, more appointments, more sales. So I decided to write this, but I needed also to write it from the marketing side and follow that journey of, you got to have a great brand message like everybody said on your stage today. You can't do it if you don't have you can't market something on a bad process that you can't deliver on.
Right.
But then understanding where are the obstacles on your website. That's potentially defecting people away. And then in my process, and then we get down to the experience. So this is written for the dealer principal, general manager at a high level, written for the managers of the teams. There's a whole accountability section, how to coach. A lot of people don't know how to.
Right.
And then agents can read it too. And the feedback's been really blowing me away, because some dealers are buying it for their whole team. They're doing a book club. Every week we're going to study a chapter.
Oh, what a practical way to work through it. All right, so we have 2 minutes left. What are some of the common low-hanging fruit that you see when you walk into situations and help? What are the things that you say, like, typically these are the first couple of things to look at?
I would say first you got to look at, it's what Ryan Rohrman said, you look at your data, even if you might think it's a little smoky, but look at it and go backwards and say, do we know why? If we had 10 people in the store and we sold 5, what happened to those 5? Understand it. And then same thing. Well, if we had 10 people show up, but we had 20 people scheduled, what happened to those? What's our process? First, you got to see if I have a process, then start looking at, are we doing what we're I don't like changing a thing. So my advice to anybody would be, just go see if your team is doing what they're supposed to. And if I can get them doing what they're supposed to, you're probably going to make some gains without having to change everything.
So simple.
It is
not easy.
Simple,
but not easy.
And that's what I also wrote the book with the purpose of, it's easy to digest. And some people have said that. Some things haven't changed as much, but it's still the same, but it's different. But it all comes down to conversations. It all comes down to talking to people like people and helping them. And it is easy if you understand it, but it's not easy in the execution because every day you have to approach it and chase it down and do it.
Well, Glenn Pasch, thank you so much for sharing your new book, The Road to Sold, a new approach to your online sales process. I feel like Jimmy Fallon.
There it is. Available on Amazon.
Available on Amazon.
And leave a review if you love it.
That's right. Or email Glenn if you love it.
Me.
Even better. Thanks for joining us on ASOTU CON
Sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this ASOTU CON session brought to you by Space Auto. At ASOTU, we're obsessed with uniting people around one big idea, that thriving people are the only path to a thriving and profitable industry. If that resonates with you, head over to morethancars.com to join our email list and explore our full list of podcasts.